Hello guys, welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Drea and I am a nursing student doing an accelerated BSN program at West Coast University. For today's video, we are going to be talking about the ATI Fundamentals Proctored Exam. Now, West Coast University does use ATI, but I know not every nursing program uses ATI. Some use Kaplan, some use UWorld, but West Coast, at least the Los Angeles campus, uses the ATI system. The ATI claims that it is a strong predictor of the NCLEX pass rate, so if you get a level 2, you have a high chance of passing the NCLEX. So with that said, West Coast requires a level 2 to pass the class, and if you don't get a level 2, you will have to remediate, retake it, and then if you fail again, you will have to retake the class. The score breakdown is a little weird and a little frustrating. So as you can see, a level 1 is from 50% to 64.9%, and then a level 2 is from 65% to 81.6%, and then 81.7% and up is a level 3. So that's the ATI grading system, but the most frustrating part about this exam is not only the fact that, you obviously have to score a level 2, but the West Coast grading breakdown according to those levels and how it is portrayed on Canvas. On Canvas, the exam is worth 100 points, and if you get a level 2, that is a 90 out of 100 points. So you basically aced the exam. Obviously, if you get a level 3, you get the full 100 points. But if you get a level 1, the jump is from 90 to 50. So a level 1 would be 50 out of 100 points. So you failed that exam. And I agree that it's not fair because you could have a 64 and get the 50 out of 100, but if you have a 65, you get the 90 out of 100. And as you know, getting a 50 out of 100 on Canvas will significantly drop your overall grade. And if you're already struggling to pass every other exam, it all accumulates, towards the end score, and that might compromise you passing the overall class. That is why this exam was a very big deal. So as I mentioned, there are 9 ATI books, and all of the ATI books combined is what makes up of the NCLEX. There are 9 ATI proctored exams. I thought that we were taking all 9 proctored exams, but I have to correct that information because at West Coast, we are only going to be taking a total of 3 proctored exams. The first one was the fundamentals. I know that mental health is one of them, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the third one was. So I'm not sure how other programs are doing it, but at my West Coast location, we are only taking 3 of the proctored exams. So with that said, I did pass with a level 2, and I will tell you the exact score that I got. But before I mention that, I just want to disclose that I really feel for the people that were not able to pass with a level 2. We all worked really hard for it. It was just a really, really hard exam. It was one of the hardest exams that I've ever taken in my life. Just because you didn't pass, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be a nurse. It doesn't mean that you are going to be a bad nurse. It was just a really hard exam that was designed for us to fail. I'll get further into detail about that in a little bit towards the end of the video. Additionally, I want to say that I am not sharing the score that I received in a way of boasting or bragging or in any attempts to make other people feel bad. I'm only sharing it with the genuine intention of wanting to be able to share the tips and tricks that I used in order to pass, so that I can be a source of information for those that are about to take the exam or those who are planning to take the exam. So I ended up getting a 79.8% on the exam, putting me at a level 2. I was 1 or 2 questions away from a level 3, which was very frustrating. Now I say this very carefully because I am grateful I passed, and again, I feel for the people that did not pass. But there were questions where, I'm going to be honest with you, I just had no idea what the answer was. I had no clue how to go about answering it. I didn't know what the heck they were talking about, and I just did eeny, meeny, miny, mo. But I was really frustrated because it could have been one of the questions that I literally guessed on that would have taken me from a level 2 to a level 3. I'm still really relieved that I passed. And again, getting the level 2 when it is read out on Canvas is a 90 out of 100. And really at the end of it all, it's the end grade that matters for the class because that is what's going to be on your transcript, right? But before we get started on talking about what I did to study and prepare for the exam in order to get a level 2, here's a quick glimpse of the days leading up to the exam, the day before and the day of. Hope you enjoy.
It's kinda crazy, the kinds of things life throws at you. I never knew I'd feel so safe in your eyes.
Good morning. It's about 5:40. I'm just gonna do my skincare and then we're gonna get going because I'm running super late. My throat freaking hurts, guys. My freaking throat hurts so bad. My anxiety is so high. It's a great start to the day. It's fine, it's fine. Positive affirmations. Positive affirmations. Yeah, of course, I'm gonna go pick up some coffee. You know the drill. I do have 1:10 before my funds class. We have a presentation today. I look like crap for presentation, but I don't give a fuck because it's really not that important at this point. And for the majority of that class, we're gonna lecture, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, I'm not gonna pay attention to that lecture. No, I'm gonna just tune her out and study for this exam if I'm being completely honest.
Feels like I'm dancing on moonlight. Of all the stars at night, none of them can shine as bright as you do. They can't compare to your light. Thousands of miles between, still couldn't stop us. Just the thought of your life.
Hello, I'm back. It is actually a week later. I got really sick. We had Memorial Day week off, and unfortunately the 1 week that I had off and had no school all week, I get sick, right? Anyway, this is everything that I did for the exam. So the first and second thing on this list is the ATI book as well as my lecture notes, and I kind of want to combine them because I use these two interchangeably. So the first thing that I did was obviously take notes throughout the entirety of the term. Our lectures are based on the Engage modules on the ATI dashboard, and the Engage modules literally just follow the book in more detail. I would even go as far as to say that the Engage modules would be like the textbook, and this is like the workbook to that textbook. So the Engage modules are basically like what my professor lectured on and what we did homework on and what I took really good notes on. So that brings me to the second thing that I use, which is the book, this book. This is going to be your Bible for your first term at West Coast. West Coast sets it up in a way where literally all of the classes that you guys have will be dedicated to the ATI topic that you are working on for that term. So all 3 classes that I'm taking right now all correlate with one another in regards to covering the materials that are on this book. So I used this book in several ways. Again, because this was a summary of my lectures, I would read the ATI book chapters on the Engaged lectures that we would cover in class a day or 2 before those lectures are covered in class. That way when I went into class, it wasn't the first time that I was getting exposed to the material. and I would really just skim through the chapter. And these chapters in this book are really short. I think like the longest one would be like 5 pages. And then after the class lecture, and when I have already finished like my pretty notes based on that lecture, I would obviously try to read them once or twice on my own time. That way I am retaining the information. And then when I finished doing that, I went back to the book and went to the same chapters based on the lecture, and I would skim through it again, and then I would complete the post quiz that's on there. At the end of every chapter, there's like a little post quiz. I would do it without cheating. Like, I wouldn't make it an open note thing. I tried to like answer it as honestly as possible. All the red is like everything that I got wrong, and as you can see, I was getting a lot of these things wrong, but that's part of the learning process. I also want to add that as I was going through the chapters of this ATI book, I was annotating, I was highlighting, I was making little sticky tabs to keep myself organized, however way you guys want to go about it. Just know that this book is like your holy Bible, especially when it comes to taking that proctored exam. Thirdly, in addition to the lecture notes, you guys know I'm a big fan of Anki cards. They're basically Quizlets, but like on a different level. I love Anki so much because I am able to access it through multiple devices, and I've just grown accustomed to it, and I love all the plugins that you can have on Anki. So for the lecture topics that don't really require like much understanding, but there's no other way to like learn the material but repetition, that's when I would use Anki cards. So the other thing that I did was create a study guide for myself. I basically followed along the table of contents of the book, and then included as like subtopics for each category the important things that were on that chapter that I needed to know, and I formatted it as a checklist. So you guys know that I use my study guides in 2 ways. So the first way, I skimmed through it and make sure I covered every material. I went through all of the lecture notes. And then the second way that I use the study guide is I wait until like a day or 2 before the exam, and I use it as a serious checkoff. I highlight everything that I absolutely am 100% confident about, and everything that I am not confident about, I will go back to my lecture notes and review those and do practice quizzes on those as well. And then I will repeat that until I can cover the whole study guide without hesitation. That brings me to the next thing on the list of things that I used, which are the practice assessments and practice questions. If you watched my last vlog, you guys saw that we had to do the practice assessment A and B and do the remediation plan for like the assignment of that week. There are a total of 4 practice exams on the ATI dashboard. There's practice assessment A and B, and then there's practice assessment A and B with NGN. Now, I highly recommend that you take them on your own time, even if it's not like a requirement for you guys to take it, like the way my teacher made it a requirement. Even if it's not a requirement, take it on your own time, take all 4. As for the other practice questions, I used 3 resources. The first being the dynamic quizzes. If you've never accessed the dynamic quizzes before, you basically just go to assessments, dynamic quizzes. You can customize your own quiz or test. You can choose the amount of questions, the level of difficulty. You can even choose if it's timed or not. And there are a total of 402 practice questions at random. I went through all 402 questions. Yeah. The next set of practice questions that I went over were the Engage post-tests. Engage, again, is one of the modules that we used on the ATI dashboard, and at the end of every chapter there's like a post-test, and even though we had to do those post-tests anyway as part of our ATI homework throughout the term, I went ahead and retook all of those quizzes. They range from like 10 questions to 25. There were like 1 or 2 that had 50 questions, but those were like the more easier topics. So they're not long, you know, if you if you take like less than a minute to answer each question, because you're trying to like go through them fast, you know, you just want like the exposure, you can finish like one 10-question post-test in like 8 minutes. Thirdly, the last set of practice questions that I used were the practice tests that my class tutor provided. West Coast provides a class tutor for the major theory class of your term. So our tutor created his own version of a practice exam. I know a lot of other programs don't have like a class tutor that creates your own practice. You can still use the dynamic quizzes, you can still use the engaged quizzes, and then you can still use the practice proctored assessments. Additionally, there are also practice questions online. There's a bunch of them on Quizlet. There's some on StudyDoc. There's some on like registered RN even, but I suggest that you utilize as many practice questions as you possibly can, because I am telling you now, there is nothing that you can do to prepare for how nursing school questions are, the way they set you up to trick you. It's a different type of way that questions are asked, and the only way you are going to be able to learn how to answer these type of questions is through multiple exposures. Lastly, I watched all of the Level Up RN fundamental videos. They have a set of flashcards that they sell online as well, and their YouTube playlist videos basically like follow along those flashcards. I didn't buy the flashcards, I just watched the videos, but their videos literally follow this ATI book as well. And I noticed they were pretty much accurate as to what is on this book. And each video on that playlist was about like 5 to like 12 minutes long. So they're quick videos. I would watch them like before I go to bed. I would watch them especially like in the traffic drive home. And there were days where it took me like an hour and like 30 minutes to get home. So I killed like about half of the playlist from just driving home. And I also used it at times when like, you know, reading the information just was not clicking, so you need like to watch a extra like lecture video on it. I really suggest using Level Up RN. I will link the fundamentals playlist in the description below. So those are pretty much everything that I did to study for the exam. With doing all of this, I ended up scoring a level 2, a very high level 2. Now for my tips and advice. This exam was one of the hardest exams I have ever taken in my life. There's nothing that will prepare you for the types of questions they will ask. And the most annoying thing about this exam is that no matter how good your instructor is, no matter how great of a job they do at teaching you this book and nursing fundamentals in general and like everything you need to know about that topic, there's nothing they can do to prepare you for how these questions are going to be asked on the actual proctored exam. That is because they do not have access to the exam. They don't even have access to the results of the exam. So we don't know what questions we got wrong. They can't help us out and they can't check for us. So there's no way of like correcting our mistakes and bettering ourselves, which is so annoying. I'm not even gonna get started on that. Even though the title of the exam says fundamentals, the majority of that exam is all med-surg. Why? I don't know. My professors have also agreed that these type of questions are med-surg level questions, and there shouldn't be any reason why they are asked of fundamental students. The best tip that I can advise you, and I wish somebody had told us, I wish our teachers would have known, is to go over basic med-surg. Now med-surg is basically like all the tubings of the body. So that includes like your tracheostomy, that includes oxygen therapy, that includes enteral feeding tubes, GI tubes, geriostomy tubes, and then IV lines. Those are not fundamentals at all, but I can guarantee you the test that we were given had like over 10 questions on those topics. And although this book brushes on those topics, there are probably like a total of 5 pages on this book about those type of lines and tubings for the body. And they just brush up on it because, again, it's fundamentals and you go into more detail about it as you get into med-surg. But why were there so many questions about med-surg on a fundamentals exam? I don't know. They like just set you up for failure. All that information will be on this med-surg book. A tip that I have is if you want to go like that extra distance and maybe skim through some of the chapters that include those topics from the med-surg book, I think it's a really great idea. It's really stupid that you even have to open this book for this so-called class topic, right? It's so dumb. Don't even get me started about it, but that's just the reality. I will say though, there are multiple versions of the exam. I think my professor said there are like 4 to 6 versions of this exam, at least as of 2023 spring. Obviously, there are some versions that are a little bit easier than the other versions, but unfortunately my cohort, of course, with my luck, got stuck with one of the harder versions. I do recommend that you go over a little bit of med-surg just in case you do get the same version that I did. I do want to let you guys know that I will be opening up a Etsy shop to sell my notes, including the study guide and study checklist that I created for the proctored exam for fundamentals, as well as other notes from previous classes if you guys are interested in purchasing my notes. I promise they're going to come at an affordable price. I know as nursing students we don't get to work as much, so we're not generating as much income as we are focused on studying and going to school. So I just want to let you know that I do have that in mind when I am uploading and creating the price for them. But just know that I also put in hard work to make them. If you guys are interested in purchasing, I will link this shop in the description below. Anyway, that is all for this video. That is pretty much everything that I did to study for the exam, and those are the tips that I really suggest you look out for and do in order to excel in this exam. If you've already taken this exam and you didn't pass or you didn't get the score that you were expecting, don't worry, it does not define you. It does not mean that you're going to be a terrible nurse. It does not mean you're not going to pass nursing school. It was just a really, really hard exam that literally was designed to stump you, and it's just one of those hurdles that we have to overcome in nursing school. And for those that are about to take this exam, or those that are starting core or starting your fundamentals class in order to prepare to take this exam, I hope this video did not scare you. Instead, I hope that it is beneficial and helpful for you. When you do take that exam, just know that I am rooting for you. I believe in you. You got this. And as long as we are giving it our best, practicing good self-discipline, you and I will make it through our programs. And that is all for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!